The most hated airline in the world.
Ryanair is the largest airline in Europe, flying over 180 million passengers every year. And unlike most airlines, Ryanair offers flights for as little as $9.99. But
how the hell do they get a flight for $9.99? Is it like a 30-minute flight across cities, bro? A $10 airline flight? I feel like the average plane flight that I'm buying costs like $300.
For every passenger who loves Ryanair's cheap tickets, there's another one who has sworn never to fly with them again. Ryanair is infamous for charging ridiculous.
Well, I hate to be that guy, but if you're getting on an airline that's, you know, charging $9.99 for a plane seat, I'm assuming there's a catch, coupled with the fact that you're probably going to have pretty bad service. I think it's fair to like rate something very poorly, but in light of the price. Like if you're getting on a plane that's taking you across multiple like states or countries and you're paying $20 for your seat and you're like, dude, I was crammed in the back the whole time. It was really uncomfortable and it smelled bad. I mean, what did you think? You know, you thought you were going to get a fucking five-star experience sitting in the back of the plane in Ryanair, you know, basically standing up by the toilet seat.
Ridiculous hidden fees, taking passengers to unexpected destinations, and changing their schedule.
That's kind of fun. If you don't have anywhere specific to be. How do you get on? What do you mean Ryanair taking them to unexpected locations? Like you get on the plane thinking you're going to Germany and you end up in like Philippines?
At the very last minute. And if you head to their social media accounts, you'll find that instead of helping out, Ryanair often just trolls their passengers, quite literally making memes out of their complaints. There are countless horror stories about flying Ryanair.
I mean, but I kind of think that's respectable. You're paying for a low-class experience. You're paying to get there, right? I think that's the only thing that needs... If you're paying $15 for a fucking flight, the only thing that should be getting voted on is, did I die and did I make it there? Like, it's different if I'm, like, paying $450 to fly on a fucking American Airlines flight, and then it's a really shitty experience. Like, I could be mad and be like, wow, Ryanair really sucked. But I'd be like, yeah, I paid $30 for my plane seat.
But here's where things get weird. Behind the scenes, everything Ryanair does is actually genius. Even with such low prices, they have one of the highest profit margins in the entire airline industry.
How? They run the plane on fast food oil.
Ryanair's journey from a single plane to Europe's largest airline is fascinating.
So how does it make money if their fucking plane seats are $10.99? Or $9.99.
So, strap yourself in, because the story of Ryanair is gonna be a wild ride.
Let me explain something to you. I set the rules, and you follow them, blindly.
Tony Ryan began Ryanair in 1984, starting off with just a single aircraft flying from Ireland to London. However, as they tried to expand and offer more routes, the business started losing more.
Ireland to London, isn't that that's like an hour flight. Is that long of a plane ride? Ireland to London? I feel like that's very short. That's like puddle jumper plane.
More money. So Tony asked his personal assistant, Michael O'Leary, to take a look at the business. And what he found was a mess of unmerciful proportions. Michael's first assessment was that Ryanair should simply shut down, because it was losing millions every year. But Tony said that wasn't...
How the hell is a small plane company that's only flying one place to one place losing millions of dollars? I never understand that. I know there's businesses, and there's like benefits for businesses being in the red at times, especially if you have multiple businesses, because you're able to write off stuff and you could be in the red for multiple years before it's a big issue with a like IRS or the government, like because you're able to like offset those costs. But if you're like an airline company or a company in general, and they're like, yeah, we actually lost $85 million this year, and you're a full functioning business on the stock market, and you're like, I understand there's a lot of steps they have to take for like future projections, and so they spend more money than they make, but I'm like, 85 million in the red, 85 million in the red, and we're still up and running. Like, what the fuck? They said they were expanding. That might be why.
An option. So Michael's next assessment was that Ryanair needed to completely restructure itself and cut down their costs by whatever means necessary. Tony trusted Michael, so he asked him to help make Ryanair profitable. They agreed a deal where instead of a salary, Michael would get 25% of any profits Ryanair made over $2 million. And
what a terrible fucking deal. Not for this guy, for the fucking Tony, dude. You're going to be like, well, I mean, he did have a failing business, so he had nothing else really to fucking give him. Yeah, I'm going to give you 25% of my business effectively if you just fucking bring us out of the red.
Michael would lead the airline as chief executive. Given that Ryanair was losing millions a year, Tony doubted whether Michael would make any money at all from this deal. However, Michael realized that trying to offer a better service than the more established airlines was not the right option. And so the first thing Michael did was head over to America to check out Southwest Airlines, a company that was charging as little as $10 for some of their flights.
Oh my God, no, you know the worst airline I've ever been on? Frontier. It's not Spirit, it's Frontier. Spirit and Frontier are like twins when it comes to that. They're both dog shit. They have the cheapest flights, but they fly like 4 places and their seating's terrible. You also got to think, bro, bright yellow plane. Ugh. Yeah, what a fucking great business idea. Spirit Airlines. Spirit Airlines. We're going to have a fucking plane. We're going to, hey, why don't we paint it the fucking color of a school bus?
Study their process and figure out how they were offering fares so cheaply. And he was hugely impressed with what he saw. Michael compared Southwest
I feel like it's just add-ons now. You buy a $10 ticket, but then you have to pay to reserve a seat for like $40. Then you pay for a bag for $50, and then you have to pay for food and drinks. Like they kind of just, you know, nickel and dime you the whole way.
Every process, from checking the plane before a flight, to boarding the passengers, to the in-flight services, was optimized to increase efficiency and decrease operating costs. When he returned from the US, Michael was inspired and vowed he was going to turn Ryanair into an ultra low-cost airline that offered customers rock-bottom prices. However, many questioned, with rock-bottom prices, how was Ryanair ever going to turn a profit? Well, Michael had a plan for that. And the best way to see it in action is for us to take a flight with Ryanair.
Don't they jam the seats together? Bro, that's how you know. Have you ever been on an airline flight and you look to your left and it's like the window doesn't line up with the seat? That's how you know they're fucking like messing with the insides of those planes to fit more space. Where it's like you're not looking out a window, it's like half on the side, so you kind of see the window behind you and the window in front of you. I saw one picture, and I feel like it was a fake image, but it was supposed to be like these new airline seats that they're inventing. Oh my God, is it real? They're stand-up seats where like you're so much closer to the person in front of you. You kind of like half sit. You're in like a crouch position almost. Like you're on a roller coaster. Ooh. I know my ass would be cramping out. Dude, look at this. Who the fuck invented this? And in the American economy, you know, I hate to be that guy. 40% of Americans are overweight or obese, all right? And you're going to try and tell me that, like, anybody over 200 pounds is going to fit. I don't even know if I weigh 178 pounds, but I'm tall, right? I don't even know if I would fit in this fucking seat.
Ticket. But you can only buy Ryanair tickets online. That way, the process is streamlined and they cut out travel agencies taking a commission. Ryanair's tickets are especially cheap, but that's because customers are really only paying for a random seat on the plane. If you want to choose a seat so you can sit next to who you're traveling with, that's extra. And if you want to take...
I literally said that. That's how they fucking get you. Because I always travel with Brooke. I'm like, oh... Wait, and it's not just Ryanair. I'm like, oh, dude, it's only like $100. It's only $100 for this fucking ticket. Oh, but if you want to sit next to somebody, it's $95 per extra. And I'm like, oh.
Any luggage other than a backpack, that's extra.
What's the most amount you spent on a ticket? Iceland. I think the most I've ever spent on an individual plane ticket was probably like $1,500. No, it wasn't to Iceland. I think it was to the Caribbean. Because it was just they only have like 3 flights in and out. Traveling to Wyoming was very expensive as well. Because everything goes through Denver.
On the ticket itself. Ryanair saves tons of money this way because most governments tax airlines on the airfare, but not the add-ons. Not just that, it means Ryanair are always going to be at the top of price comparison searches, as they're sorted based.
Oh, so it's like a loophole with the government too. And then it's just instantly free marketing. On what's that website that you get a lot of flights on? Expedia. Expedia is fucking running that shit. But you're taking 8 planes each way, all different airlines. You're going to be connecting 3 times. It's only $10 to fly all the way across the country, but you're going to connect in fucking 15 different states.
Based on ticket price,
all on different airlines.
Not including the extra hidden costs. Now, when you're booking your tickets, make sure you don't fill in any of your details incorrectly, as Ryanair can sometimes charge over €100 to make any changes. Articles have pointed out that it is cheaper to legally change your name and passport than to change names on Ryanair tickets. When you arrive at the airport, Ryanair saves on staff costs too by not having any check-in desks, and they'll charge a hefty fee to anyone that forgets to check in online. After this, the passengers head to the gate, which might be inconvenient.
How do you check in your bag then? Oh, they don't have check-in desks, but they still have bag drop.
Airlines less for using certain gates, and Ryanair always takes the cheapest ones. Next, the passengers head onto the plane, but instead of using a skybridge, Ryanair makes them take a bus and walk up the stairs, because again, it's cheaper. Once inside, the passengers will see that there's no first class on Ryanair, because having only one type of seat,
no first class on Ryanair, everyone's equal,
streamlines the cleanup process after the flight. You'll also notice that the plane is absolutely crammed with passengers. Ryanair uses mostly Boeing 737s, which typically seat around 170 passengers, but Ryanair stuff around 200 in the same space.
Oh my god, bro. For them to shove 200 people in the same spot, your knees have to be against the wall. Or not against the wall, against the seat in front of you, like pressing. And I'm assuming they don't have this feature. They don't have the lean back. I'm assuming all the seats are like hard locked upright. Like you can't move.
The max that regulations allow. This means you won't have much legroom, and to make things worse, the seats can't be reclined.
Yep.
That's because these are the cheapest seats for Ryanair to buy and maintain. It also means some of their window seats don't have a window at all.
Wait, this is what we were talking about. No window at all, though. I've never been on an airline where I didn't have a window. I've been on an airline where it's been like 2 windows split in my seat.
In the case of seat 11A, this is what you're getting. Next up, the flight attendants give a safety brief.
Just staring at a wall. God, and they probably charge more for a window seat if you want it. At Ryanair, window seat, eh? Doesn't look like that.
Next up, the flight attendants give a safety brief. But instead of your typical safety brochure, the information is printed on the back of the seat's headrest. This way, there's no need for pockets on the back of the seats, which makes...
I mean, who the fuck reads the safety brochures anyway? I always go into an airline going, if this bitch goes down, I'm dying, okay? I don't need... She always goes... And in case of oxygen, make sure you help your first in before assisting others. You can see the seatbelt in front of you, straps like this. You could also blow up the life jacket, or you could pull the tab. I'm like, bitch, I'm dying. Okay, if we crash in the middle of the Atlantic, it's cooked. Right? We're not getting saved.
Cleaning up way faster. And usually it's the flight attendants who do the cleaning themselves, which dramatically reduces Ryanair's staff bill.
Our people are our most important asset. No, they're our biggest expense.
Then the pilot introduces himself over the speakers, but they're probably not a Ryanair employee. Instead of hiring pilots the traditional way, Ryanair makes them start their own companies in Ireland and then hires them as contractors.
Is that like a weird loophole so they don't have to pay them like fucking like health insurance and shit?
This way they can avoid paying for health insurance.
Yeah. I know the business methods. Independent contractors aren't required to get... Independent contractors, I believe, can work full-time and not get benefits. Because you're not technically working for the company. You're your own company that's getting contracted to do something. It's not a pre-watch, chat. That's just how business works.
Insurance or severance. Once the plane takes off, passengers...
Why would any pilot agree to do that, though? They have to be getting higher salaries. That's the only way, because why would any Ryanair pilot rather work with Ryanair than any other company? For them to openly open an LLC in another country, or if they're a part of Ireland or the UK in general, and then get fucking subcontracted to work on the airline rather than get benefits.
You'll notice that there's no in-flight internet or screens to watch movies.
Quick flight hours. Oh, so do you think that these are less experienced pilots too? So they rack up more hours so they could go somewhere else? Oh, fuck no.
Movies on.
Oh, fuck no.
That's an
Ryanair's got fucking teenagers up at the front, at the helm, fucking flying that shit. We're coming in heavy. We're coming in hot. Let me know when I can land. Dude, are you a junior in high school or you're landing the plane right now? What the fuck?
necessary cost. And if you want any food mid-flight, or even just a glass of water, you're gonna have to pay. Nothing on the plane is free.
You gotta pay for water?
So Ryanair turns what is an expense for other airlines into another revenue stream. You won't be waiting long though. The average Ryanair flight is just over 2 hours. This is optimal for fuel efficiency, and it also...
Isn't it common for people in the UK to take Ryanair to Ibiza, Spain, like every weekend for like $10 or something?
When the passengers land, they might find they're further away from their destination than they hoped. Ryanair usually flies to secondary airports outside big cities, as they charge much lower landing and takeoff fees. For example, the Ryanair ticket may say London, but instead of flying to one of the main airports like Heathrow, Ryanair may go to Luton, which is not even in London. Or
Pissed. You take Ryanair, oh shit, now I gotta take a 2-hour Uber.
in Barcelona, Ryanair uses an airport that's around 50 miles away from the city.
That is so bad. That is so bad. Wouldn't you be spending more money then trying to get to where you need to go? You're like, yeah, we're going on vacation in Barcelona. But then you end up fucking halfway across fucking Spain.
And requires an hour-and-a-half bus ride.
Oh my God.
It's less convenient for
That's not worth it. That's not worth it.
customers, but Ryanair gets much bigger discounts from the airports. And many of these smaller airports become dependent on Ryanair for business, and so they give them incredible prices. Or another way Ryanair gets discounts from airports is they'll just fly at the least popular times. Finally, once the passengers have left, Ryanair begins unloading the plane, cleaning it, refueling it, and rotating the crew.
I'm going on vacation at Ibiza. They drop you off at mainland Spain.
Streamlined all these systems, so their planes are typically on the ground for just 30 minutes between flights. And so that's a typical Ryanair flight. And it's clear their operations are incredibly efficient to cut costs in...
We say it like Ibiza. Well, yeah, isn't that just Spain in general? Spanish in Spain, Barcelona. C's are S's. Or not S's, TH's. Like Z's and C's.
every way possible.
Ibiza.
However, this sometimes means doing things that may seem counterintuitive. For example, you may think another way for Ryanair to lower their costs would be to buy older planes for lower prices. But in reality, they do the exact opposite. Ryanair always buys the newest planes available, because long term, they waste the least amount of fuel, which is one of the largest expenses for an airline.
Ooh, so they do have the best planes, though.
In fact, Ryanair is notorious for making...
I'm Googling Ryanair pilot salary. £55,000 to £120,000. 120,000 or more for a captain. Dude, I feel like 55,000 pounds is pretty low for like a seasoned pilot, no? How much do American airline pilots make? Starting salaries is 100K, but they can become senior captains, earn over 450,000 a year. Yeah, so it's definitely less experienced pilots. Or at least working for less, even though pounds are worth more than dollars.
massive orders of only Boeing 737s. By buying a single model
In pounds, that's a lot. In dollars, bro, it's like 1.2. It's not that much more.
bulk, they can negotiate a lower average price per plane, and then streamline their whole operation further. Because by only using one kind of plane, it means they only have to buy one kind of seat and one kind of fuel. They only have to train one kind of crew on one kind of process. These ultra-efficient strategies are why Ryanair can charge less than €30 for their average flight, and still clear an outrageous profit margin of around 35% sometimes, whilst most European airlines are lucky to reach 6%, and the global average was barely 2.7%.
Wait, what? So Ryanair's fucking got the method down with the cheapest method possible. They make the most. Well, they might not make the most, but they profit margin the most.
Was barely 2.7%.
Everybody looks at Ryanair and they're all looking at it. There's one secret. There's, they bought planes cheaply, or they just treat people badly, or they do. Every single line of our operation is smarter, lower cost, or more efficient than almost every other line.
Some other airlines have now copied some of these strategies after seeing how well they worked, but very few airlines take things as far as Ryanair. However, whilst these ruthless cost-cutting strategies might be brilliant in a business sense, they have made Ryanair one of the most hated airlines in the world.
But that doesn't matter. It literally does not matter. It matters if you're a luxurious brand. If you're the cheapest brand in a marketplace, in a market space, rather, it does not matter how bad the customers hate you. If your prices are low enough, they'll still fly with you. Or they'll still buy from you. Like, they could despise you to a T, but if you are undercutting the competition so heavily, they just have to buy you.
And Ryanair's response to this is far from
we don't give a fuck.
Ordinary. Before we get to the next chapter, it's time to answer a question I get a lot.
This is an ad.
Michael O'Leary, Ryanair's CEO, has often made the news for some of his wild ideas about how Ryanair could cut costs even further. He said he wanted to charge passengers to use the bathroom, remove toilet.
Is that a joke? Now that's a little extreme. You're going to charge people to take a piss? Are you allowed to do that? Be like, yo, I really got to take a shit. That'll be £5. That'll be £5 now, lad. Otherwise, we have a poop bag and a curtain that you could shit in the back.
And even sell standing tickets.
Wow, what a fucking... Dude, you walk on a Ryanair, it's a C8B, but it's just like a subway handle. The whole airline, the whole flight, you're just...
Introduce a fat tax, and...
A fat tax. I know there's airlines that are starting to charge customers that don't fit in one seat, two seats for a ticket, which I understand is upsetting, but I will actually have the take that I think that makes sense. Like, if you can't fit in the seat, they have to charge you for two, right? There's airlines that have like plus size seats, which also makes sense. Right, like where you're just like, okay, we're going to also, segment specific seats out for people that need them. But if they don't, it's like, I think it's rude for the individual. I understand it might be out of your control in certain regards, but like from my personal standpoint, I would be really mad if I sat in a middle seat and the person next to me was sitting in half of my seat because they didn't fit in their seat.
Tickets. He pointed out these measures would allow Ryanair to offer cheaper flights, which is ultimately what consumers.
That's the only one. That's the only one that really makes sense. Like, standing tickets is crazy. Charging people to use the bathroom is nuts. Or no bathroom. I just think I don't think it's like a fat tax is weird. Saying like, we're just going to give you the same seat, but because you weigh a lot, we're going to fucking charge you more. I think it's like, okay, we're going to charge you more, but we're going to give you 2 seats.
Wants. And in some cases, there may be some logic to it.
It would make perfect sense to me to charge for toilet access. One, it would reduce the number of people who are bothering other passengers getting up and down going to the toilet on board a flight. And 2, I think we'd have fewer passengers using the toilets, and then we'd have less people queuing around the toilets on board the aircraft.
None of these ideas have actually happened though. And Michael later said he'd often just say things they had no intention of actually doing to help generate free marketing.
And we generated huge amounts of free publicity. Why? Because we had no money for advertising, we had no money for PR. So you needed some kind of loudmouth Paddy to be out there saying outrageous things like charging for toilets.
Yeah, and it gets you out there, bro.
And we're taking out the seats in the standing room only. None of which we actually planned to do, but it generated acres and acres of free publicity.
Ryanair saved.
It's also like they know they're going to keep the same business model. So from a social media perspective, if they're getting shit on, and some dude's like, I paid £20 for this flight and it's a fucking piece of shit. And Ryanair's like, I'm so sorry you had a bad experience, sir. Would you like a free flight voucher? Like, that's going to make you hate them, even though they're helping that one person, because it's like, you're still you still have shit seats, right? You're not changing anything. You're just being like, oh, I'm sorry you felt that way. Versus them being like, go fist yourself. Don't fucking take our flight then. Now people are going to be like, okay, well.
A fortune on marketing by simply having Michael do interviews and say outlandish things to get headlines, which always led to more people checking out Ryanair's website and buying tickets. For example, when he was questioned why passengers are charged €20 just to print their boarding passes at the airport, Michael replied, "Well, I think they should pay €60 for being so stupid." He also said, if drink sales are falling off, we get the pilots to engineer a bit of turbulence. That usually spikes drink sales. Another way Michael helped Ryanair get free marketing was with creative promotions designed to get maximum.
They start charging for the bathroom and then they purposefully do turbulence so you have to pee more.
One of our first best ones was we did this Valentine's Day promotion, which was 69 for 2.
However,
Oh, but what if I die on the airline? Death tax. We're going to charge your family €100 to take your body off the plane.
not everyone sees the funny side. You'll find plenty of Ryanair horror stories and tens of thousands of—
But I couldn't get enough oxygen. Well, we're going to add an oxygen meter on every passenger. You're only allowed 3 breaths per minute.
1-star reviews.
If you breathe more than 3 times per minute, that's 50 pence per breath.
Some newspapers started having an entire column dedicated to Ryanair complaints as there were so many. Like a woman who was charged €300 for Ryanair to print out her boarding pass. But Michael has openly stated he feels customers paying cheap airfares have no right to complain when things go wrong. He said, "We don't want to hear your sob stories. What part of no refund don't you understand?" Another example was when hundreds of passengers were forced to spend the night at the airport after their flight was cancelled.
Ryanair doesn't... Ryanair... actually, we don't have enough money to put you up in a hotel, but here's a tent. You can make your way outside.
And many asked if Ryanair would provide accommodation. Michael said,
Nope.
"Absolutely not. You booked a flight, not a hotel." One of their most controversial policies was forcing the disabled to pay up to €25 for the use of a wheelchair.
Wow. Okay, now I think I'm gonna take a step back on that one. I don't know about forcing disabled people to pay for a wheelchair. I think that's a little crazy.
One lady said, "Despite booking wheelchair assistance, I had to ask a fellow passenger to push me to the departure gate. And upon my
What? They don't have... you're gonna need to pay somebody to come push you.
return, I sat for an hour waiting for assistance on the plane, getting colder and colder." Almost any other company would offer goodwill gestures when things like this happen. But instead, Ryanair takes a different approach. When you go to Ryanair's social media, you'll find that instead of helping out, they're making memes from their passengers' complaints. For example, when passengers complain they paid for a seat but didn't get a window, Ryanair simply responds, "Read that again but slowly. You paid for a seat." Another asked them where their window was, and Ryanair replied, "Pay for the baggage you've stored under your jumper, and then we can talk." One of their most viral posts was when a customer complained about the very narrow stairs Ryanair used, and said, "I'll bring my own stairs next time." But Ryanair responded, "Bring your own plane next time." Some people question
At Ryanair, I'll bring my own stairs next time. Bro, I feel like you gotta be have you guys ever at a multi-million or billion-dollar corporation and complained to them before? I feel like I've never done that on social media. Because in any instance, I feel like they're not really going to care. I'm not saying it's pointless because sometimes it does matter. But a lot of the time people will be at Ford, my car blew up. They're going to reply.
Some people questioned, should a company be responding this way instead of apologizing? But another said, they charge extra for everything except Twitter roasts. No regular airline would ever do this, but in Ryanair's case, it's actually a genius strategy. Ryanair has millions of followers, and their troll posts regularly go viral, which directly leads to more ticket sales. They've embraced their reputation of being stingy.
And then I also think it helps people laugh at how bad the flights are. Because when you follow them on social media, they openly make fun of themselves and other people about how bad their plane is. And then you actually pay $20 to go on their flight, and you're like, there's no window seat. I just got taxed $10 to fucking get a water, right? You laugh it off, right? Instead of being annoyed, you're like, this is Ryanair. They told me it would be this way, and it's this way. It's funny, right? So it still sucks, but it's how you perceive that, I guess, pain or upset feeling that you have.
Airline. And as a result of all these strategies, Ryanair carries far more passengers than any other airline in Europe. Their typical airfare goes for less than 30 euros, and they've sold flights for as little as $4.99. They might not treat you like royalty.
Bro, that's insane. A fucking I know it's €5 or £5. Bro, less than a $10 bill. You could board a plane and it'll take you to a different country. That's absurd.
About what they are. Love them or hate them, they've given people the option to fly all over Europe at prices that are often cheaper than train tickets. So there's no doubt they've made air travel affordable for millions of people. However, remember how Michael
You can do mystery flights? I've always wanted to do that. I don't know if is Ryanair the company that does that? I feel like there's a lot of companies that do that shit. I've always wanted to do that though. How do they prepare you in that sense? I think it's like kind of like a travel package deal. I don't know if that's Ryanair specifically, but I've seen this one company, Mystery Flight Company. What is the name of that company? It is Wizz Air. It's Pink Plane. I knew it was Pink Plane. All right. Yeah, like Wizz Air, they bring, it's like, why is this a really low quality image? They bring you anywhere, but I'm like, how do they book like your room and board as well? Like if I'm going, hey, I'm going to pay to go on this mystery flight. Well, they're going to charge me a specific amount. So that kind of gauges where I'm going to go, you know?
Compared their efficiency to McDonald's? Well, that's because McDonald's pioneered something called the Speedy Service System, which is genius. Just click this video now.
Yeah, they drop you off in the middle of like a desert. Hope you have your vaccinations for the mosquitoes. Might get malaria. What? That would be fucking awesome, though. I wouldn't even be upset. If I took a Wizz Air airline flight and I was like, damn, dude, I really think we're going to be going to like Italy. I get dropped off in like the middle of nowhere in like Kazakhstan. I feel like that'd be awesome, no? Like just having no idea where you're going. What do you pack though? You don't know if you're going warm. Do they tell you? Like if you're going warm or cold? Oh, fuck. Should I do that for a vlog one day? That sounds so fun. To go on like a Wizz Air. It's in Europe. But I feel like they only probably take you to places in Europe. Does that make sense? Like, I doubt they're flying you, like, you take Wizz Air, and then they fly you to, like, fucking rural Colorado.